So if you remember all the way back to last week, whenever I was preaching about basically the end times, and as you can probably see from these readings, we're really continuing to ratchet up all of that language, focusing on resurrection in particular. These readings are really no different in a lot of ways as last week. I really like the story of this woman and her 7 sons. We got the abridged version in the first reading. We only heard about a couple of the sons, but every one of those stories is just as powerful. And then this mother got to witness as each of her 7 sons was killed, and then finally herself. There's another story in the second book of Maccabees where there's an old man, Eleazar, who is 90 years old, who was told to eat pork, and he refused because he's a good Jew. And he had friends who were in the court of the king who said, you know what, pick a different meat and we'll just pretend you're eating pork and we'll fake it. And Eleazar said, I won't even do that because I don't want these younger generations to think 90-year-old Eleazar has given up the faith for just, a couple more years of life or whatever I might have. I think we can look at stories like these and think, geez, I am nowhere near that. Because we maybe don't have that same level of courage in us to live a life in complete witness like that to Christ or to our faith. Because these stories, the way that they're told, they're supposed to arouse people to say, yeah, go, rah, rah, go, here we go, all that kind of stuff. And there's all sorts of stories like that of the martyrs in particular, those who've died for faith in Christ, who just overwhelmingly seem to have victory over the powers that be and seem unflinchingly unfazed by all of these things. I just know in my own self that if I was faced with a situation like that, I would be trembling in fear. Because death is, though we understand resurrection happens after death, Christ is the victor over all these things, it's still scary. And there's lesser ways that we face every day that we might not really have the courage to stand up against. Even something as simple as office-based gossip. Am I willing and courageous enough to say in the face of that, I won't participate because it will kill my reputation? To have a lack of fear in the face of a fearful, scary situation is not courage. That's foolishness. We should have a certain level of fear that says, I will not jump into a volcano or do something ridiculous. But what true courage is being faced with a difficult situation and after weighing it up, saying, I will still charge at this thing anyway because this is what I'm called to do. And when it comes to our faith, the only way that we'd be able to do crazy things like Eleazar or this woman and her 7 sons is our faith in the resurrection. Jesus in the gospel, for instance, talks about that, there was the woman who had 7 different husbands, so whose wife will she be at the resurrection? That's the only reason I can stand up here as a celibate man and tell you that this life is worthwhile. I've had plenty of moments where I've looked at the sum of my 7 years of priesthood and thought, can I really keep doing this? Because a family sounds like a beautiful thing. Celibacy can be an extremely difficult thing in moments. The only way we can live this life is if we have faith in the resurrection. Whether it's to be called to a celibate state, whether it's to be called to die for the faith, whether it's called to squash office gossip, it's still going to be scary in big and small ways. But if we have faith in the resurrection, then anything that we feel called to do by Christ to do, any of those kinds of things, can be done.